paranormal. It surrounds us. It's everywhere. Tonight, you will hear from the people who live and work within these highly active locations, all in the efforts to discover America's most haunted. With your host, ghost hunter and author, Dan Terry.
Good evening, dudes and demons. Welcome back. I am Dan Terry, your ghost host with the most haunted here on the UNX Network and broadcasting out of the mysterious mountains of Mount Airy, North Carolina. When I moved to North Carolina a year and a half ago or so, I knew Missouri and that area, Kansas, been to a lot of haunted places, but I wasn't prepared for just how haunted this state is. Think about this. This is just a small part. This is the home of the blood-sucking vampire beast of Bladenboro. There's a guy I got to meet. There's the Devil's Tramping Grounds. And I'm telling you guys, I have seen video coming from the tramping ground that would scare Dan Aykroyd right back to New York. Brown Mountain Lights, Blackbeard's Ghost. We got all of that. And yet, if North Carolina is ghost crazy, I'm telling you, West Virginia is a paranormal lunatic asylum. And I'm not being facetious. They actually have a haunted lunatic asylum, prisons, everything. And you guys know, if you watch this regularly, I've talked to Adra out of the Blassenhausen Hotel there in West Virginia. I talked to Dana Toombs, who owns the Haunted Majestic Boats. And I'm just scratching the surface of the folks I've met from that state. In 2021, Forbes magazine listed the top spookiest states. It was New Mexico, Michigan, and West Virginia coming in third. And I would say it only came in third because it was so unexplored. I mean, like I've told you before, that place is like going into the forest primeval when you drive through there. So I'm really talking to a lot of folks out of West Virginia. And as you know, I like to bring in ghost hunting groups as well as owners of haunted places. Well, today I'm bringing you some friends of mine from Mountaineer Paranormal. And I was going to wear their shirt, but Skelly had to do it, and I'm not going to argue with the dead. So Skelly gets that shirt. I'm wearing the one from the old hospital on College Hill, which is very haunted, and I believe Mountaineer Paranormal was one of the first to investigate it, if not the first. So let's hear some stories out of West Virginia. Welcome, Austin Stanley from Mountaineer Paranormal.
How's it going, Dan?
Hey, there you are. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain too much.
I understand you're going over some evidence right now from a haunting in that area. Which
as you guys
discuss.
As you can see, the video footage in the back. I was just reviewing today of a location that us and SRI out of Huntington investigated a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. So it's an undisclosed location. They don't want it to be released yet because there's some businesses in the area. They don't want to affect anything. But yeah, I was just going through evidence review on that and have been in the middle of evidence review for the Heyman House out of Sutton.
The Heyman House, I know you've done that recently, but I want to go back to where we met, which was at the, what did they call it?
West Virginia Paranormal Tourism Convention.
Tourism Convention. Okay. Yep. And why is West Virginia so amazingly, incredibly freaky? I mean, it's not just ghosts. There's all kinds of stuff there.
Well, my personal opinion on that is due to the fact that West Virginia is so unexplored. There's not a lot of exploration, especially with the paranormal around here. There's just a few. I know of 3 groups, mine, SRI, and West Virginia or WVPI. But I know there's not a lot of exploration going on in our state as far as the paranormal or cryptids are concerned.
Okay. So, but yet there still seems to be more going on than Delaware or whatever state, South Dakota. Is there a reason is there a real reason that place attracts? What do you got? You got Bigfoots, cryptids. You've got the that alien that came down back in 1954. You got the stuff you're doing, and there was so many people there in that conference, which was amazing because they put it all together in like 2 months and still had a couple good days of speakers. There was just so many there, and the big ones weren't. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, the Moundsville Penitentiary, those hadn't even made it, and still the place was crowded. So, what's your thoughts on that?
I think there's a ongoing need for knowledge on that. I think people came out to learn about it just a little bit more. From back when that convention had happened, my group was only up for less than 3 months. So we really haven't done a lot. And even now we've been up less than 6 months. So we haven't really done a lot, but still yet, I mean, you've got that I believe people thrive on, just the unknown. And there's a lot of people that showed up wanting to learn about that, wanting to learn history and just learning about the paranormal that they might not have known of. Prime example, I was talking to a friend of mine out of Wyoming County because I'm from Pineville. And I have lived there. I was born in North Carolina, but I lived in Pineville my whole life, was raised in Pineville. And you would think that I would know a lot that's in Pineville, a lot of like the unknown things that a lot of these people, that live there their whole life don't know. I just learned last week that there's a cemetery in Pineville. I did not know that, and I live there. So I think there's that need for people to want to learn more about the more unexplained things that we tend to thrive in.
Okay. Well, you're certainly surrounded with it there in West Virginia. Let's start with the old hospital. Was you the first or one of the first groups to investigate it?
I wasn't the first group to investigate what had happened. That was our first investigation as a founded team. So that was Mountaineer Paranormal's first investigation that we had ever did was over there. And that, I'm being a little not superstitious, just a little liking one place over the other. That has been my favorite spot to go to so far.
Okay.
There's some things in there. There's a lot of historical value. I love history, and just learning about all the history that went on at that hospital, it's provided me knowledge to one day go back, which I plan on doing soon. And like I said, that was our first investigation that we ever did as a group, but that was by far my most favorite investigation that I've ever did.
What kind of evidence did you uncover? Was you there? The owner told me of a elevator that makes noise, even though it's not connected to anything.
When we was there, the elevator was operational because we used it to haul equipment between we first set up a base camp in the foyer area when you first walk in, but it was the dead of winter when we went down there. So we decided to go upstairs where they had heat so we didn't freeze all night.
Good move.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the cold. I keep my house at 64 degrees, but that was just too cold. But we had used the elevator. We didn't have anything happen with the elevator that night, which that's not to say that it's never happened before. They've told us stories of that. But you know how when you walk into these locations, I know you said you do paranormal investigations yourself.
Yes.
So you know how when you walk into these locations, you can sense like just a wall, like you just go, oh Lord, how you just feel the energy in that place. The hospital, to me, I felt just a rush of energy as soon as I walked in, and I could sense that there was something there. And I've got a picture that I want to show of something that I did not capture this picture.
Okay.
One of the guys that came along with us, Chris Collin, takes 110% credit for this picture. And if you look at it close enough, you can almost, to me, I don't know if it's the pareidolia effect, which is our eyes making something look like what it's not. But I can make out, and I've had a couple of people tell me that they can make out maybe a couple of eyes and a nose and like a frowning mouth. I don't know. But it was, I mean, there was nothing there. We went and looked. There was nothing behind the window, nothing that could cause that type of color, that shape, anything. Okay. So that's leading me to believe that it could potentially be something of the paranormal.
Okay, so this is going to be a photo Race is about to put up of the old hospital on College Hill. Okay, Race, are you there? Okay, well, anyways, Race will be back shortly. So what do you think of that photo? When he brings it up, we'll all see it. What do you think of it?
Definitely, as you can see where the arrow is pointing up above the air conditioner, you can see just an odd shape that's obviously behind the window because it's not coming over the like piece of wood or whatever that's in the window.
Yeah.
You know, I personally think that Chris had caught something when he took the picture. And it's something of the supernatural, of the paranormal. And a lot of misconceptions with the paranormal as well is that it has to be night. It has to be, it's not. This was obviously took at dusk. Right. So I think we have something. Do I know what it is? No. It's just one of those unexplained pictures that we have of the location.
Okay, so I see a globe. There was no lights in that room. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, there's no lights, electricity, nothing.
And it looks like that center support on the window is on the outside of it, so it's not a reflection of anything outside.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what did you find when you went into that room? Did you ever investigate within that room?
I personally didn't go in there, but from the other investigators that I talked to, they said it was just a run-of-the-mill empty hospital room in a sense. There was really nothing there that could make that kind of reflection or that kind of color. Okay.
And there was nobody else in there. Was there anyone in the building at the time?
No. All of us was outside doing our, I like to call it a pre-investigation huddle, where we just get all together, talk about our strategy, talk about what we're going to do, and then, ground ourselves before we go in, because it's really good before you go to do these things is you don't want anything that's happened in your, in that day to affect what you're going to do in there. So it's really good to get grounded, get centered, and then make your way in there to start prepping for the investigation.
Okay, now are you talking about some kind of paranormal cleansing, or are you just talking about kind of taking a minute and letting go of the day's stress?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Taking a minute, just letting go of the stress of the day, making your phone calls to like family, say, hey, I'm going to be unavailable. Just in a sense, separating yourself from the outside world and only focusing on that particular spot at that particular time.
It's a good idea. That's awesome. Okay. All right. So you guys went in then. What happened to you all throughout that night?
Really, the most activity that we got was on the downstairs to the fourth floor. They were featured on Destination Fear, if you don't mind me bringing this up.
No, go right ahead.
They were featured on Destination Fear. So we did kind of a thing to where, like what they did, we picked floors and we went on to bed down for the night. Mm-hmm. And I picked, for some reason, I don't know why, but I picked the fourth floor, which is where the pharmacy and the operating rooms were stationed at. Chris was in the basement most of the night when we bedded down. And one of our other investigators was on the second floor at base camp.
So how many of you were in the building at the time?
There was 1, 2, 3 or 4.
Okay.
4. At least 4.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of our investigators had to leave early that night. But Chris, I got a report from Chris that says throughout the whole night when he was downstairs sleeping in the basement, he could hear footsteps walking past him all night long. On the upstairs part where I was in the pharmacy area,
Mm-hmm.
the way I was set up is kind of funny. So I was on the back wall of the pharmacy, laid up with my back against the wall, laying down on the floor, had the SLS camera pointed at the door so I could see anything, and had an EVP session running all night long just to see if I would catch anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I did get some footsteps that night on the EVP. I did, when I was awake and watching the camera, because there's not really a good way that I found you have to record the SLS, or I would show you that footage.
Sure.
But I could see things forming all night long, basically at the front door, just like they were looking in, but then they would disappear. And our other investigator, he LiDAR'd the whole hospital. And essentially what that is taking video, and it's video, scanning all the walls, every door inside every single room, and it renders a 3D model of the hospital.
Okay. And
he LiDAR'd the entire hospital, and he was telling me that he was hearing stuff and then seeing things throughout his exploration and when he was doing the scans and everything.
And what was he reporting to you?
Just weird feelings, footsteps, seeing like shadows out the corner of his eye. But he didn't get anything on video, and I combed that LiDAR scan more than I comb my hair, as you can see. It's kind of like you stuck your finger in an electrical socket. But no, I combed through that LiDAR evidence that we had, and I could not find anything. Which then again doesn't mean that there's not something there, because I'm telling you there's something there. I just, it's the process of finding out what that is.
And you've only been there the one time, right?
Yes, I do plan to return.
Well, apparently the owner thought very highly of your investigation, because she brought you up on stage to discuss it there at the conference.
Yeah, that, from what I've been told by people, I'm not like these TV shows. I'm not.
Nobody is.
I could mention a name right now that we all would cringe. And I think you're thinking of the person that I'm thinking of right now.
Don't doubt it.
Yep. Travel Channel, but we won't go any further than that. Yeah. I can see the look. I'm not like any of these other groups or any of these other televised groups. I'll say that. My little motto that I have is tell the story that would otherwise go untold. You cannot do that by just jumping into these locations, taking pictures, videos, and if you hear one little thing going, just freaking out, you can't do that. It takes a lot of background work, historical research, pulling out, notable people that's passed away in that facility, death certificates, seeing what they've passed away from, centering your investigation around things that might have the potential to be there. I'm not gung-ho in a sense. I don't just jump into these places and expect to find anything. And I'm not here to prove anything, but I'm not here to disprove anything. I'm here, you was in law enforcement. So in investigations, and I was in law enforcement as well for a couple of years, you don't sit here to prove anything. You don't sit here to disprove anything. You let the evidence lead you to a conclusion.
Good point.
And that's what I do. I don't make any assumptions. I let the evidence lead me to where I need to go.
All right. Well, let's go back, because I like what you said about the historical part of this, because without history, we're telling campfire stories.
Exactly.
This might as well be the story of the guy with the hook who escaped from the asylum at the lake. You know what I mean? It's without history, we're just telling spook stories.
Exactly.
But when you add the history to it, and there was an event that occurred there, if I recall correctly, where someone may or may not have fallen out the window or suicided.
Yes, that is what I've heard. And I pulled my website up on the other screen so I can kind of read also. If I'm not looking right at you, I'm just reading off of it.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah.
So the College Hill Hospital was built in 1928. It was originally named Williamson Memorial Hospital. Right up the road from the old location, which I investigated, there is another hospital that is the Williamson Memorial Hospital. I used to work the ambulance in Mingo County, so I took a couple of patients to that hospital before they closed. In 2014, the hospital was converted into a storage facility for the bigger hospital to where they could store old equipment. They had in the basement area, from what I heard, they had a pediatric physician center, which is kind of weird in a basement of an old hospital. But we drew from that conclusion by researching it, and the fact that they have like little kitty paintings and make people feel more comfortable on the wall. So going back to that story about where he committed suicide, he jumped, or there's yet that potential that he was assisted out of the window.
I like the way you worded that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll read this little excerpt. Lieutenant Garrett Richmond was shot and killed when he and fellow officers responded to a disturbance call at a restaurant downtown. A man had been arguing with his wife. The suspect shot Lieutenant Richmond in the head as him and his fellow officer walked toward him while he was sitting in his car. Richmond's fellow officer returned fire and injured the subject. The subject was transported to, at the time, Williamson Memorial Hospital, where he a week later suffered severe injuries. From what stories say, he leaped from his room's window located on the third floor. There had been a lot of speculation. There's no proof of this. So when I come out and say this, there's no proof of this. Right. But there had been speculation that since he had shot and killed one of the more renowned officers in that city, that potentially his fellow officers might have retaliated. There's no proof of that, so that's not in stone. But
just a legend.
Exactly. That's just a legend. And Lieutenant Richmond was 43 years old when he passed away, so he was young. He was young in retrospect to that. So when we went to his room, I could feel that something was there. We got a lot of flashlight responses, yes or no questions from him, from somebody in there. Do I believe it was him? I do, because he was answering questions like, is your name such and such? Then he would answer those questions. Is your name, or was the guy that you killed's name this? The flashlight would come on. But I didn't have any definitive, it was just flashlight responses. It wasn't an EVP saying his name or anything like that. But yeah, that's a little story on that. If you can pull the picture up again, I don't know if you can, I can show you the window and kind of explain just a little bit. So he was on the third floor. So if you see where that awning is,
yes,
and you see the window, not where like the rail is, but the window that's kind of in front, the third window up, that was his room. That was his room. So we don't know if he jumped out of the room with the air conditioner or he jumped out of the room over the awning. That little area that you see that's connected to the awning that has that rail up top on the second floor, that was not originally there. So that was built later on. So when he had fell, that wasn't there. It was built, I think, in the 70s or 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
So no matter what, he fell 3 stories.
He fell 3 stories, whether he jumped or had help.
And did you ask him about that while you was doing the flashlight discussion?
I did, but we didn't get any response on that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, we didn't get any response on that. I don't know if it was too direct of a question to ask, or if he just didn't want to answer the question, or potentially something in there was making him not answer. I've seen that before, where other spirits will be more dominant over other entities and would keep them from talking. So that might be the issue. I don't know. But from what I could hear, that it was his room. There is a picture frame up there with his death certificate.
Wow.
So we got a little history on that. I can't think of the exact reasons why he passed away off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm sure concrete poisoning was a big part of it.
That's funny. Yeah, that guarantee that probably had a part to play in it.
So, okay, so you did that room and you got responses. There is the building is absolutely haunted. Would
In
you
my
concur?
in my opinion, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at least one spirit there may very well be the suicide victim or whatever it was.
Yeah, I'm thinking the either it could be down between one of two people.
Okay.
It could be the gentleman that shot the officer, or it could be the officer himself. Because to my knowledge, that officer was transported to the same hospital.
Right.
So I'm leaning to believe that it was one of them two that I was talking to. I don't have any solid proof of that, but I'm leading to believe that it was one of the two.
I was once talking to a spirit of a guard in the Missouri State Penitentiary, and we found out both historically and from what he said that he had been killed by a prisoner. That prisoner was still in that cell, and he was spending eternity keeping him in prison. That is absolutely what that spirit told us.
That is awesome.
Of course, we don't know
awesome
how
evidence.
accurate it is, but I even asked the spirit if, and we was using K2 meters, and he was responding with those. But I even asked him if he didn't want to move on and get to his own reward, and he said yes, he did, but he was not going to leave. That spirit deserved to be in prison, and he was still guarding it. So I can see what you're saying. I've seen it myself. It's happened before.
Yes, I've had a lot of feelings that could lead on to that. Haven't got any concrete proof of that, but
Right.
yeah, that happens a lot because there are spirits that are more dominant than lesser spirits.
There are vengeful, spiteful ghosts. I have found their personality in life is the same as their personality in death.
Exactly.
And if they're that angry at someone, yeah, the grudge holds on forever.
Exactly. And with how my mentality is someone would say I'm working in a prison or working wherever, because I work EMS as well.
Right.
If someone would murder me, I would see to it, just like he's doing. That's just my own opinion. There's a lot of people like that, but I would 110% see that they are imprisoned in a sense for the rest of their life, because there's no excuse for that. I mean,
Well, sure, but to spend your own eternity in a drafty old prison to make sure this one doesn't leave,
I get what you're saying too.
That's taking spite to a whole new level.
Yeah. Vengeance.
So what else did you get there? I know there's more to it than that. You thought you saw something at least on the whatever the what do you call that again with the little
SLS camera.
SLS, yes.
It's a structured light sensor camera. It's made with an Xbox Connect system. It's all infrared, and it can show stick figures is literally what they're called, and it can map out stick figures in like on the computer system that it's attached to. So you can yes or no questions, and then usually if you see something that you don't see with your naked eye, you'll go, if this is you, can you raise your right arm? If the right arm goes up, then you might have something there.
Right. Yeah. I worked with Kansas Paranormal. Oh, I'm sorry, Road Trip Paranormal. They had one, and in one place, the ghost, I upset him enough he was trying to hit me. And they actually got video of the stick figure trying to hit me. It was weird.
Yeah, that's some awesome evidence too.
Okay, so what else did you have there?
Other than just the SLS responses, the flashlight responses, we caught some weird noises on the recorders that we had and got that one picture. But other than that, it really wasn't too much in depth.
When did you get the EVP you sent?
The EVP that I sent you, that was when we done an investigation at Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Oh, that's a whole different one. Okay.
Yes, that's a whole different one. That investigation we did just before we founded the group, because after I caught that and was going through it, I was like, yeah, I'm hooked. Let's start a group. And that's what we did.
All right, so give us the background before we play the EVP of what was going on.
So what we was doing, it happened to be the same night that I'd got scratched. So I got scratched over at Trans-Allegheny. It was my first investigation, and I didn't really know how to conduct an investigation, didn't really know what I was doing. And at that point in time, I had watched a lot of these ghost shows.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially the one that I mentioned earlier, he has a tendency to be I'm not going to say provocative, but a little bit more dominant seeming. And that's what I was trying to do. I was like, if you're truly here, then why don't you prove it? You're not here, whatever, just trying to entice them so we could get more activity. And it was up in that room. We had just walked in. This was before I got scratched. And one of our people, Jessica, had asked a question, can you turn the light on for me? And then it goes through, you can clearly hear it. It's Class A EVP. It's a yes. Now I'll go off and say too that my voice is not that deep.
Right.
It was only me and Jessica. Her voice obviously isn't that deep. So, and there was nobody else in there with me. There were people in the facility with us. There was 8 other people there, but they were nowhere near us. So it couldn't be any drafts. It couldn't come from the outside. There's just no other explanation other than it could be something supernatural.
Well, when I first listened to it, I understand it said a confirmation when she asked, can you turn the switch off or whatever? And then there was some more behind it. I swear there's more. He says more than just one answer.
Oh, really? I only picked up on the one. And I think what it was is where I was so shocked and excited that I found it. I didn't listen to it more, but I didn't hear anything other than that. I'll have to, since you told me that, I'll have to pull that up and analyze it a little bit more.
Well, listen close. Race will play it here. If you listen close, I swear it says something to the effect of, I don't know, why do you ask, or what do you want, or something to that effect. There's more to it, I believe. Race, would you play the EVP also?
If anybody's in here, can you turn the light on for me?
I hear this. I know exactly what it's just before he says yes. It's like, why do you ask? That's what I'm hearing.
Something to that effect. Would you play it again for us, please?
If anybody's in here, can you turn the light on for me?
Yeah, there's more to that one. We got to break that down a lot, but there's something else being said.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to do that. Yeah, definitely, because I can hear it's like kind of where the footsteps are going on, where we're walking around, and then it says something right at the end of the footsteps. Then you hear footsteps for a couple of seconds, and then it comes back with his confirmation response.
So yeah, it's like I said, I've been listening to EVPs now for about 35, 40 years. So I pick up things a lot of folks don't, just because I keep listening. But that's an outstanding one. Anything else happened there at the lunatic asylum? How did you get scratched?
So I was being a little enticing to their activity, and I'd done way too much, more than what I should have. And they retaliated by scratching, which I'm not going to go into depth of what I said, but it was very enticing, and it was not provocative, I would say, but it was just trying to entice them to do activity.
Okay. Was you asking for proof or asking for them to? Okay.
I was asking for proof. I told them, use the energy from our devices and show me proof that you're here. And I don't think they like that too well. So hence I got scratched, because I've got a picture of it somewhere. If I had it, I would show you. But you can clearly see 3 scratch marks down the back of my neck. And after that, I was like, yeah, I'm done with the whole trying to entice them to that effect. And then obviously that night before he left, I cleansed myself with, sage, trying to protect myself. And
3 scratch marks?
3 scratch marks. Let me see if I've got the picture, and I can send it to you.
It's fine. I mean, but just 3 scratch marks has a very ominous meaning behind it.
Yep, it's the mocking of the Trinity.
You were dealing with a demonic force there, you believe?
I don't think I was dealing with anything demonic. I think what I did, in lack of a better terms, is I pissed something off about something that we were talking about or what I said, and its only way to express its anger was to scratch.
Okay.
That's what I think it was. I didn't feel it, I didn't have any after effects after I went home, didn't have any nightmares of the place, did not have anything that would normally be correlated with something demonic.
Well, I have heard before of other people claiming they've come across that in that asylum, but
Yeah.
I mean, 3, that would set up a red flag for me, for sure.
Yeah. With as much history and as much bad things that has went on over there, I would not doubt that there might be something potentially negative over there.
Mhm.
But do I have any proof of that other than the scratch marks? No. I really believe that, because I've had demonic experiences before, and I really believe I just pissed something off that night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to hear about one of your demonic experiences, but let's continue with Trans-Allegheny. Anything else go on that night?
Tons of footsteps, a lot of audible disembodied voices that I've heard when I went on my own. We went to I think it was the 3rd floor. We went to one of the top floors. And I went with the tour guide because at the time, first investigation, I was scared, didn't want to go on my own.
Right.
Make it what it's worth. But we went down there and we could hear something. We'd be on one end of the corridor, and at the whole other end of the facility on the same floor, we would hear something moving around. Me and the tour guide that I went with up there, we had saw something visually, like just a shadow dart across, and me and her took off running toward it to see what we could find. We didn't find anything. We just saw. I wish I had the video. I wish I was recording. I wasn't. It seems that all the good stuff happens when you're not recording.
I've had that happen. I understand.
Yeah. So we saw it, and that was one of my more memorable experiences, was seeing that.
Okay. But other than that, it was a pretty decent investigation. You've got some evidence, but nothing earth-shattering.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Would you like to talk about one of your demonic experiences? I'm sure this happened before.
Yeah, this happened when I was younger. This is a story. I call it an experience of mine because I was in the house at the time that it happened, but it didn't directly happen to me.
Okay.
So my brother, it's my middle brother. He's a little timid. He doesn't know what to believe, I think, or he just hasn't had an experience to make him believe in anything other than this. It was one night he was in the bathroom doing something. I don't know what it was. It was in the middle of the night, around 3 or 4 o'clock, the witching hour. And my mom had told me, because I wasn't home at the time, she had told me that he had heard something. He had saw something, black, red eyes, the whole 9 yards, just scary. And he had, it was like a blood-curdling scream that he had let out when he saw this, and she came in, and he told her what happened. Anything that followed up after that, nothing really happened after that. He just saw it in our house that my mom and dad still lives in today. But other than that, he really didn't speak. I mean, there was nothing that happened to him after that. He saw it, he screamed, and he's never saw it again to my knowledge.
Okay. So spirit passing through, perhaps?
It could be. I believe it was just something that was just on its little journey, whatever journey it was taking, just passing through, and he just happened to be there at the right time and the right moment to see it.
Okay.
But reason why I haven't really done full investigation on that yet. I'm still trying to get them talked in and let me do one at the house. Yeah, it's a process.
Oh yeah.
But my mom thinks it could be something more on the demonic side. I don't know what to believe because obviously I didn't see anything. I didn't get time to research it. But most people associate dark figures with red eyes that look scary to potentially be demonic. Now, that's not out of the realm of possibilities, but still, yeah,
It's pretty rare.
That needs to be investigated on a little bit more,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Like I said, if it happened once, it may have just been something passing through. We've had that happen before also.
Yeah, he's not experienced anything to my knowledge that I know about yet.
Okay.
Since that happened.
So the day we met, when I left because it was starting to snow and I had to go back to North Carolina, but you were about to do a investigation with some folks, some of the folks there at the conference, wasn't you?
Yes, we investigated Deep End Antiques that night.
What city was that in?
That's in Beckley. It's a couple of miles away from where the convention was. It's an old antique shop.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
That night was an eye opener for one. We had got some awesome activity in a back storage room because it used to be an old hotel area. In one of the old rooms, we had got some activity. I'd got personally grabbed on the leg. I got grabbed and my pant leg got pulled back. And tactical pants, you really can't feel anything when you're wearing them because they're so thick.
Right.
I felt my leg get pulled back. It got pulled back into like a tire that they had sitting in the room. I saw something with my own eyes, like orange or red eyes that was back there. We got a lot of SLS hits. I've got video of this. It's posted on our TikTok channel. We got a lot of evidence that night.
Okay.
And it was an eye opener for sure. I've been back once since then to do just a quick 2-hour investigation.
Right.
And we got some stuff on the spirit box there, but I can't wait until I can do like a all-nighter investigation, like be out there all night and actually get to dig in deep to this place. Because there's stuff there.
How's the relationship with you and the other ghost folks in West Virginia? Because everyone was getting along so well that day.
Oh, yeah. So I still keep in contact with David Worley of Haunted Beckley. Mm-hmm. I consider him family. He's an awesome historian. He knows a lot about the place, a lot about just Beckley and West Virginia in general. April Richardson Morgan from Trust and Ghost Tour Company. Mm-hmm. We got to give her credit because her and Scott were the ones that, made this happen, and she's family up to it. She has done so much for Mountaineer Paranormal, me, Spectral Research and Investigations, Brian Clary. Okay. He is a real good friend of mine. He's called me to do a few investigations with him. I enjoy learning from him. I feel honestly that he's took me under his wing to do these investigations. So I feel really good about investigating with him. I learned a lot from him and Teresa, which is their historical researcher.
Okay.
They're not ran like a business in a sense. They're ran like a family, and we're all family oriented. And that's what I enjoy most about these people. It's all just one big paranormal spooky family.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you make any other contacts? I managed to talk to, like I said, Mr. Tomes from the Haunted Majestic. We've interviewed Adra from the Blassenhausen Hotel, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and several other folks from there that are just really were eager to talk about what they're experiencing, like yourself even.
Yeah, so the contacts that I've made was with April, Scott, Brian, Travis from Deep End Antiques. I got to speak briefly with the people from PIT, which do a lot with Haunted Majestic. I've got to speak with people from West Virginia Paranormal Investigations. They're really good people. It's just making those lifelong connections of people that I know. And then I got to meet you. That was awesome to get to meet you and then finally be on the show.
But it took a little while.
Oh yeah, it took work.
I understand.
Between the funeral home that I was working at to the ambulance, it's been a tasking on my time lately.
Oh, I'll bet.
Oh yeah, but I have met a lot of people, a lot of lifelong friends that I know if I need anything, I can call them. They'll be there. Mm-hmm. It's just that it's just awesome to have those connections, especially with Brian and April and Scott, because they've took me under their wing. They're teaching me all about investigation. Like I said, I've been in operation, I guess you could say in layman's terms, for less than a year and a half, or
Right.
not less than a year. I'm sorry. So I'm still needing to learn investigative tactics. I'm needing to learn how to research on these places, how to conduct interviews, paperwork. That's the only thing I have to say about paperwork. I don't like it, but it's a part of it.
It is, definitely.
It's just them taking me under their wing, teaching me everything that I know now. And then when I first started, I was not known to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I went to that investigation, and I've been told by several people I'm starting to become recognized. I was in the Unix, I think is how you pronounce it, the magazine.
Oh, Annex, yeah.
Yeah, Onyx magazine. I was in that, featured when I was talking to the College Hill Hospital.
Yeah, I wrote that. So
Oh, that was awesome. I was like, April had let me know. I went and bought my own copy, and I was like, that's amazing that I've been doing this less than a year and I'm already been recognized by people. And I'm not trying to boast my own boat, but that really helps me out, because especially in our part of West Virginia, this is a really hard thing to do, and because a lot of people don't believe in it. They have that thriving eagerness to learn about it, but a lot of the older folk just don't believe in it for some reason. I don't know why. I know it's real, but everyone's entitled to their own opinions.
Well, it spoke a lot that the owner of the old hospital wanted you on stage with her while she talked about her place, and you'd only been in there once, but yet she had you up there telling the stories, and man, you got her confidence pretty fast.
That when they approached me with that proposition, I was shocked. I was like, are you kidding me? I've done one investigation at this place, and they're already wanting me to speak with her. Like, that shocked me. That caught me off guard a little bit. So that's why when it was all said and done, where that was our first investigation, I don't know if you was in there when we was speaking.
Yes, it was.
But I gave her that plaque. I had custom made, that plaque turned out great. Mahogany wood.
That was a genius move. Good idea.
I gave her that plaque to, I'm not going to say memorialize, but to set in stone in Mountaineer Paranormal's history that, hey, this was our very first investigation. This place was awesome. They treated us with respect. They gave us an abundance of information. They helped us throughout the night. I had no problems at whatsoever. And this is my thank you from our team to you. And she had told me that when they get they're going to turn their little foyer area with that rail that I was telling you about, they're going to turn that into their gift shop. And she made it a point to tell me that when it's fully done, that she's going to hang that on the wall. So that meant a lot. That really did.
And I thought it was a good move that you presented it to her. It's kind of like the housekeeping seal of approval. This is haunted. Here, I can tell you it's haunted.
And I do, like I said before, I do plan on being back. And I eventually want to make it one of my yearly stops. So go there once a year, twice a year. I've been in contact with her just preliminarily, I guess you could say it, talking about hosting events there. And I did make it known to her that I want to be more involved with that hospital. In a sense, make it one of our signature locations. Because I love old creepy hospitals and funeral homes. I mean, there's no better than that.
And so, do I remember that the basement of that was a morgue?
To my knowledge, what I learned from them, they didn't have like an autopsy room per se. They just had an area that they would place bodies for the funeral homes to come pick up. They had the door there that they would just push their stretchers down, pick the bodies up, take them out. But they did have a crematorium down there.
They had a crematorium.
Yes.
Where the children had pediatrics.
Yes.
Wow.
That's
a shock.
Yeah, from my knowledge, and from what I know, the amputation room was just right below the crematorium. So they would do the amputation procedures and then would dispose of the remains if they needed to. There's also stories going about unclaimed bodies being cremated there. I don't have any proof of that.
Okay.
But I can tell you, I did work in a crematorium and a funeral home for a long time. So I've got a knowledge of what human ash looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And while there is, just regular biodegradables in there like wood and just chipping and stuff like that that's in there, I can, with about, I'm going to say this, about 85 to 95% accuracy that there is still human ash in that crematorium.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's,
So in your work with, as a funeral director or what do you call it? Mortician assistant or something?
my technical term with the state is I'm a licensed funeral director and embalmer apprentice. So it's a step before you become fully licensed. It's like an electrician's apprenticeship. You work under a licensed electrician to learn the trade. So that's what I'm licensed to do.
And doing that and doing the ambulance and all of that, do you have stories you're holding back? And I understand if you don't want to tell them about the paranormal in this field.
Well, I have one story, and I'm out of respect for the funeral home that I worked for. I'm not going to mention their name.
Okay, sure.
Just out of respect for them. But I was doing a removal one night. It was the witching hour. It seems to happen. Most of my removals happen between 9 and 3 a.m. But I was doing a removal, and the stretchers that we use, they're not like ambulance cots. They're a lot like ambulance cots, but they're not. They're one-man stretchers. You can load them by yourself. Mm-hmm. I was sitting at the desk doing my pre-analysis paperwork, which is just with the death field, there's so much paperwork. It's outrageous, but it's all there to protect you against liability, which, take it for what it's worth. So I was there completing paperwork, filing the fingerprints, doing all that. And I started hearing some jostling. So I roll in I'm lazy. So every time I'm back there, I just roll in the chair everywhere. So I just roll my chair back and look down the hallway to where I'd parked the gurney. And what I do is I take the gurney in with the decedent. I place them on a prep table. I pull the gurney out, place it in the hallway, because that's where I like to stage my sheets, blankets, pillowcases, pillows, cleaning supplies to get the stretcher ready for another family.
Sure.
In their time of need. But I just heard some jostling, and I just peered over, and the stretcher was doing this. It was just moving.
Moving a few inches or feet?
It was moving at least 6 inches in each direction, enough to where I could notice it. So I was like, yeah. So I finished my paperwork up. I shut everything. I left. I called my boss and kind of gave him the preemptive, but he had asked me the next morning why I'd left a stretcher unmade. And I was like, this happened. I was spooked out. No one was here with me. I was alone, and I just headed out. And he's like, well, that's not the first time that they said that's happened. But that has happened to me, and it was a very, very spooky encounter, to say the least.
That's awesome. In the last minute or two we've got to talk, what's one thing you're carrying away from your year now, or almost a year of ghost hunting?
The one thing I'm taking away is meeting, there's several things, but I can make it quick for you. It's just meeting everyone that I've met, learning history about these places. I love history. Just, like the College Hill Hospital, Trans-Allegheny, learning about all them. And most importantly, I do home calls as well. But most importantly, just helping people. That's what I want to do. That's why I was a funeral director. That's why I'm in EMS. I'm also a volunteer firefighter. I'm going to go back and say apprentice funeral director for all them grammar people out there. But, just in the field of helping people. And this is just a way that I can extend my help and my minor expertise to help these people with whatever problems they're having. I just love to help people. And this is just another way I can do it.
Well, I have been in this a while, and in many places, and I've been very fortunate that I haven't had a major problem, but I have seen groups fighting each other, groups saying, This town is mine. Nobody else can ghost hunt. This is my place. I don't want anyone else ghost hunting. Seems like you're not catching that. You're getting people, as you said, wanting to help and to welcoming you to the hobby.
Yeah, and I'm not going to claim territory.
Yeah.
That will start drama. That'll tarnish the group's name. That'll tarnish me as an investigator. And I'm not about doing that. If you want to invite me, by all means, invite me. If you don't, that's fine. I'll invite whoever that I want. I'm not here to tell a group, this is my town. This is me. You can't investigate here. No, because that's not the family-oriented thing. Family's here to help each other.
Good point.
That's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to claim territory. That's outright disrespectful to the owners. That's disrespectful to your group. That's disrespectful to the industry. That the industry is not claiming territory and this is mine. I can only investigate it. No, this industry is out here to help people. This industry, in my opinion, in our state is family-oriented and should be kept that way. We all help each other. This is what we do as investigators. We just help, not claim territory.
Well, on that note, we're going to shut down, but thank you, Austin Stanley, the founder of Mountaineer Paranormal. You've been a great guest, man. I appreciate you cutting out the time to come see us.
Anytime, Dan. Thank you for having me.
Talk to you soon. Take care, buddy.
Sir.
All right, folks, I got to cut out of here pretty quick, but I do want to remind you to get onto the unxnetwork.com. Get your free subscription. We've got a new magazine about to hit. It's going to hit, I think, late next month. And you want to get that free subscription and get that free digital copy sent to you by email. I'm sure I'll have a story in it. I don't know what it is yet because I send so many in, but there'll be at least one in there, I'm sure. But again, you need to get on unxnetwork.com. Go down on the page you get to, the home page. There's a place there where you can get your subscription, sign up for it. It's free. You get the UNX newsletter. That's monthly. You get the X blog, and then you get the digital copy, all of it for nothing. So for Austin, thanks again for showing up. Man, it was an awesome talk. And for the rest of you all, stay spooked. Good night.